Hey everyone, tonight we're journeying back over 500 years to discover one of history's most ingenious and surprisingly peaceful professions, the chinampero, or floating garden farmer of ancient Mexico. I know Aztec civilization might not sound like typical bedtime material, but the reality of tending these incredible floating gardens was far more meditative and zen-like than you might imagine. These farmers created what was essentially the world's most sustainable and tranquil agricultural system. If you're enjoying these deep dives into history's most fascinating forgotten jobs, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. I'm always curious where you're all listening from around the world, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. It never ceases to amaze me how people fall asleep to these ancient stories from every corner of the globe. Alright, find that perfect comfortable position, take a nice slow breath, and let your body sink completely into whatever you're lying on. We're heading back to 1519, to the incredible city of Tenochtitlan and the network of floating gardens that surrounded it like a green paradise. Trust me, you're going to understand why this might have been the most peaceful job in human history. Dawn on the water. Congratulations, you've just awakened on your reed mat in a small adobe house on the shores of Lake Xochimilco, in the year 1519, just months before the Spanish will arrive to change this world forever. It's early morning, perhaps an hour before dawn, and you're lying in the comfortable warmth of woven cotton blankets dyed with the brilliant colors that make Aztec textiles famous throughout Mesoamerica. You are Itzel, which means rainbow in Nahuatl, and you are a chinampero, a floating garden farmer whose family has tended the same plot of agricultural paradise for over a century. Your work is considered among the most honorable in the Aztec Empire, for you help feed the greatest city in the Americas, the magnificent Tenochtitlan with its 250,000 inhabitants. The room around you reflects the prosperity that skilled chinamperos can achieve. The walls are made of adobe bricks, painted with geometric patterns in red and white that catch the pre-dawn light filtering through the reed screen covering your window. Woven palm mats cover the packed earth floor, and your few possessions, beautifully crafted pottery, obsidian tools, and cotton textiles, speak to a life of comfortable prosperity earned through generations of agricultural mastery. Your breathing is still slow from sleep. Take a moment now to breathe more deeply, feeling the cool, moisture-laden air of the lake region fill your lungs. In through your nose, slowly and completely, then out through your mouth with a gentle sigh. The air carries the distinctive sense of your world, fresh water, growing plants, the earthy richness of fertile soil, and the subtle perfume of water lilies that bloom across the lake's surface. Through your window, you can already hear the gentle sounds that will define your day, the soft lapping of water against the chinampas, the quiet splash of oars as other farmers begin their morning journeys, the melodious calls of the countless birds that make their homes in this watery paradise. These sounds have been the soundtrack of your family's life for generations, as natural and comforting as your own heartbeat. You sit up slowly on your reed mat, feeling the familiar anticipation that comes with knowing you'll spend your day in one of the most beautiful and productive agricultural systems ever created by human ingenuity. The chinampas, those incredible floating gardens that Spanish conquistadors will describe as looking like something from a dream, wait for your daily attention in the growing light of dawn. Standing now, you move to the water basin in the corner of your room. The water is fresh, drawn from one of the many freshwater springs that feed Lake Xochimilco, keeping it from becoming too salty despite its connection to the larger lake system. You splash the cool water on your face, feeling it shock you fully awake while carrying the clean, living scent of pure mountain water. Your reflection in the polished obsidian mirror shows someone in their prime, perhaps 28 years old, with the lean, strong build that comes from daily physical work in perfect harmony with natural rhythms. Your skin is bronze from working under the sun, but your hands are surprisingly soft for a farmer, moisturized by constant contact with lake water and rich earth. This is your world, Itzel of the floating gardens, a realm where human ingenuity has created something approaching paradise, where agriculture becomes art, where the simple act of growing food has been elevated to a form of meditation that connects you intimately with the cycles of water, earth, and sky. The Spanish, who will soon arrive, will struggle to believe that such productivity and beauty can coexist so perfectly. Let yourself settle into this reality now, feeling your feet firmly planted on the reed. Mats, you're breathing steady and calm as you prepare for another day in what may have been history's most zen-like occupation. The work ahead is both ancient and timeless, connecting you to the fundamental rhythms that have sustained life since the beginning of time. The morning paddle. After dressing in your simple but well-made clothing, a cotton loincloth and sleeveless tunic dyed with subtle earth tones, you gather the tools that will accompany you for another day of tending your floating paradise. From wooden pegs driven into the adobe wall, you take down your COA, the distinctive Aztec digging stick with its broad, flat blade perfect for working the soft earth of the chinampas. Your hat, woven from palm fronds and shaped to provide maximum protection from the sun while allowing cooling breezes to circulate, settles comfortably on your head. The craftsmanship is exquisite, each frond carefully selected and woven with techniques passed down through generations of your family. Like everything in Aztec culture, even utilitarian objects are created with an eye for beauty and perfect function. The walk from your house to the water's edge takes only a few minutes, following a well-worn path through the reed beds that fringe Lake Xochimilco. Other chinamperos are beginning their day as well, and you exchange quiet greetings with neighbors whose families have worked adjacent plots for decades. There's a comfortable familiarity to these morning encounters, the shared understanding of people who know their work is both vital and deeply satisfying. Your canoe waits where you left it yesterday evening, pulled up onto the muddy shore and secured with a rope made from maguey fibers. The boat is a masterpiece of practical design, long and narrow for easy maneuvering through the canal systems, shallow drafted to navigate even the shallowest channels, and perfectly balanced for carrying both passenger and cargo safely through the waterways. You push off from shore with a practiced motion, the canoe settling into the water with barely a ripple. Your paddle moves through the lake's surface with the quiet efficiency that comes from decades of daily practice, each stroke perfectly timed and angled to propel you forward with minimum effort and maximum grace. Your breathing naturally synchronizes with the rhythm of paddling as you head toward your chinampas. In with the forward stroke, out with the recovery, your lungs filling with the clean morning air that rises from the water's surface. The repetitive motion becomes almost meditative, your body finding its natural rhythm, while your mind begins to focus on the day's work ahead. The journey to your floating gardens takes about 20 minutes, following channels that have been carefully engineered over generations to ensure optimal water flow and easy access to every plot. Along the way, you pass through what can only be described as an aquatic paradise, a landscape where human ingenuity has enhanced rather than destroyed the natural beauty of the lake system. Water birds rise from hidden nests in the reeds as your canoe approaches, their wings catching the early morning light as they circle overhead before settling back to their feeding. Herons stand motionless in shallow water, waiting for unwary fish, with the infinite patience that you've learned to emulate in your own work. Ducks paddle between the floating gardens, their young following in perfect formation, through channels that serve as highways for both human and animal traffic. The chinampas themselves begin to come into view as you round a bend in the main channel, rectangular plots of the most intensely productive agricultural land ever created, floating on the lake's surface like green jewels set in blue water. Each plot is approximately 30 feet wide and 300 feet long, separated from its neighbors by narrow canals that serve for irrigation, transportation, and drainage. Your own plot, inherited from your father and his father before him, appears ahead, like a familiar friend welcoming you home. The vegetables you planted weeks ago are showing strong growth in neat, perfectly spaced rows. Maize stalks rustle gently in the morning breeze, their broad leaves already showing the healthy green that promises excellent yields. Tomatoes, beans, chilies, and squash create a patchwork of colors and textures that please the eye while providing the varied diet that makes Aztec cuisine so nutritious and flavorful. As you approach your mooring spot, your breathing naturally slows and deepens, with the anticipation of beginning work that feels more like meditation than labor. The water laps gently against the edges of your chinampa, creating the soft, rhythmic sound that will provide the background music for your entire day. You secure your canoe to one of the wooden stakes driven into the edge of your plot and step carefully onto the solid surface of your floating garden. The ground feels firm beneath your feet, though you can sense the gentle give that comes from earth supported by water rather than bedrock. This slight flexibility is part of what makes chinampa agriculture so successful, the soil remains moist and fertile while drainage prevents waterlogging. Standing on your floating garden in the growing light of dawn, surrounded by water and growing plants, you feel the deep satisfaction that comes from working in perfect harmony with natural systems. This is where you belong, tending this small piece of aquatic paradise that feeds both body and soul with equal generosity. The art of mud and water. Your first task of the day involves the most meditative aspect of chinampa farming. The daily ritual of soil preparation and maintenance that keeps your floating garden at peak productivity. You move to the edge of your plot where yesterday evening you left bundles of water plants soaking in the shallow canal, their roots and stems now perfectly saturated and ready for composting. Lifting these bundles from the water requires careful balance and coordination, skills that have become second nature through years of daily practice. The plants are heavier now, waterlogged and dense with the lake's nutrients, but your movements are fluid and efficient. Each bundle is placed precisely on your chinampa's surface, beginning the process that will transform aquatic vegetation into the incredibly rich soil that makes these floating gardens the most productive agricultural system in the pre-Columbian Americas. Your breathing naturally deepens as you work, the physical exertion warming your muscles while the repetitive motions create a rhythm that feels almost ceremonial. In through your nose as you bend to lift each bundle, out through your mouth as you carry it to its designated spot. The morning air carries the fresh, clean scent of lake water mixed with the earthy richness of decomposing plant matter, the smell of fertility and growth. Next comes the addition of fresh mud, scooped from the lake bottom with a specialized tool that your grandfather carved from a single piece of hardwood. The implement is perfectly balanced, its blade shaped to slice cleanly through water and penetrate the soft bottom sediments without disturbing more than necessary. Each scoop brings up dark, nutrient-rich mud that glistens like chocolate in the growing daylight. This mud is not ordinary soil but a complex mixture of decomposed organic matter, mineral sediments, and microorganisms that create perfect growing conditions for virtually any plant. The lake bottom has been accumulating these nutrients for centuries, fed by mountain streams and the waste products of countless water birds and fish. When you add this mud to your chinampa, you're incorporating the concentrated fertility of an entire ecosystem. The process of spreading the fresh mud requires both strength and artistry. Too thick, and it will not drain properly. Too thin, and it won't provide adequate nutrition. Your hands have learned to judge the perfect consistency by feel, your fingers reading the texture like a book. The mud spreads smoothly under your tools, creating a surface that looks almost good enough to eat, which, in a sense, your plants will be doing. Working with this mud connects you to one of the fundamental elements of existence. Your hands, now coated with the dark sediment, are in direct contact with the basic building blocks of life. The sensation is both grounding and elevating. You can literally feel the potential for growth and abundance in every handful of this miraculous substance. As you work, you become aware of the incredible silence that surrounds your floating garden. Not the empty silence of desolation, but the full, rich silence of a living system at peace with itself. Water laps gently against the edges of your plot. Plants rustle softly in the breeze. Somewhere in the distance, another chinampero's paddle dips quietly into water as he tends his own floating paradise. This silence is one of the greatest gifts of chinampa farming. In a world where most agricultural work involves battling against natural forces, fighting weeds, struggling with drought, competing with pests, your floating garden exists in harmony with its environment. The water regulates temperature and provides constant moisture. The mud supplies unlimited fertility. The gentle currents carry away excess salts while bringing in fresh nutrients. Your breathing slows to match this peaceful rhythm as you continue spreading the fresh mud across designated sections of your chinampa. Each movement is deliberate but unhurried, efficient but never frantic. There's something deeply satisfying about working with materials that want to cooperate rather than resist, about participating in natural processes rather than opposing them. The sun climbs higher as you work, its rays warming your back and casting moving shadows as clouds drift overhead. The light sparkles on the water surrounding your floating garden, creating patterns that shift and dance with every gentle wave. Dragonflies begin their daily hunt, their iridescent bodies flashing as they patrol the channels between chinampas. By mid-morning, you've prepared approximately a quarter of your plot for new Plantings, the fresh mud spread evenly and ready to receive the seeds and seedlings that will become next month's harvest. Your hands are thoroughly coated with the dark sediment, but rather than feeling dirty, you feel connected to the very source of life itself. This connection to soil and water, to the fundamental elements that support all existence, is what makes chinampa farming feel more like spiritual practice than mere agriculture. Every day brings this intimate contact with the forces of growth and renewal, this direct participation in the cycles that have sustained life since the beginning of time. Planting the water gardens. With the soil preparation complete, you begin the most creative aspect of your work, deciding what to plant where, and in what combinations, to maximize both productivity and beauty. Chinampa agriculture is as much art as science, requiring an understanding of which plants support each other, which sequences optimize soil nutrients, and how to create the polyculture systems that make these floating gardens so incredibly productive. From your canoe, you retrieve the collection of seeds and seedlings that represent weeks of careful planning and preparation. Maize kernels selected from your finest plants, their colors ranging from white to yellow to deep purple-black. Tomato seedlings started from seeds saved from particularly flavorful fruits. Bean seeds that will climb the maize stalks, their roots fixing nitrogen in the soil for future crops. Squash seeds that will spread across the chinampa surface, their broad leaves shading the soil and conserving moisture. Each variety has been developed through generations of careful selection by chinamparo families, creating crops perfectly adapted to the unique conditions of floating garden agriculture. These are not the ancestral wild plants but highly sophisticated cultivars that represent centuries of agricultural expertise applied to creating the most productive and nutritious food system possible. The planting process itself is meditative in its precision and intentionality. You work in careful rows, spacing each seed or seedling according to knowledge passed down through your family line. Your grandfather's voice echoes in your memory as you work, sharing the traditional wisdom that ensures each plant has optimal space, light, and access to nutrients. Maize goes first, planted in clusters rather than strict rows to maximize pollination, while allowing companion plants to thrive in the spaces between. Your dibble stick, a pointed tool perfect for making planting holes, penetrates the soft earth with satisfying ease. Each kernel is placed at exactly the right depth, covered with precisely the right amount of soil, and gently firm to ensure good seed-to-soil contact. Your breathing naturally synchronizes with the rhythm of planting. Bend, dibble, drop seed, cover, firm, move to the next spot. Each motion flows smoothly into the next, creating a dance-like sequence that feels both purposeful and peaceful. There's something deeply satisfying about this work, about participating directly in the miracle of turning tiny seeds into abundant food. Between the maize clusters, you plant beans whose climbing habit will turn the corn stalks into living trellises. The relationship between these crops is symbiotic. The maize provides support for the beans, while the beans add nitrogen to the soil that the maize will use for growth. This companion planting exemplifies the ecological thinking that makes chinampa agriculture so sustainable and productive. Squash seeds go into the remaining spaces, where their spreading vines will eventually cover much of the chinampa's surface. The broad leaves will shade the soil, reducing water loss and preventing weed growth, while the developing fruits provide another nutritious component of the Aztec diet. The flowers, too, are edible and considered a delicacy when prepared properly. As you plant, you become acutely aware of the water surrounding your floating garden and its crucial role in this agricultural system. The lake maintains perfect soil moisture without waterlogging, provides a stable temperature that moderates both summer heat and winter cold, and serves as a highway for transporting seeds, tools, and harvested crops to market. Tomatoes go into their designated section, each seedling carefully transplanted from the nursery area where you started them from seed weeks ago. These plants require more intensive care than the traditional Three Sisters crops, but they've become increasingly popular in Tenochtitlan's markets and command good prices for chinamparos skilled in their cultivation. The seedlings are still small, their true leaves just beginning to develop, but you can already envision them as mature plants heavy with red fruit. This ability to see the future in the present moment is part of what makes chinampa farming so satisfying. Every action taken today shapes harvests that will come months from now. Chilies receive special attention, planted in the warmest, most protected section of your chinampa. These plants are particularly valuable, their fruits prized not only for food but for medicine and ritual purposes. The varieties you grow range from mild and sweet to fiery hot, each with its own specific uses in Aztec cuisine and culture. As you work with each type of seed and seedling, you feel connected to the long chain of chinamperos who have selected, saved, and improved these varieties over generations. Every kernel of maize in your hands carries the genetic legacy of countless previous harvests, shaped by the careful choices of farmers who understood that their work was literally shaping the future. The morning progresses with this rhythmic planting, your movements becoming more fluid and automatic as muscle memory takes over. Your breathing deepens into the steady pattern of physical work performed without stress or hurry. The water around your chinampa reflects the sky, creating the sense that you're working in a space suspended between earth and heaven. By late morning, you've completed the planting for today's section, the fresh seeds and transplants settled into their new homes in the rich earth of your floating garden. Tomorrow you'll water them gently with lake water carried in clay vessels, beginning the process that will transform these tiny beginnings into the abundant harvest that makes chinampa agriculture legendary. The wisdom of water management. As the sun approaches its zenith, you turn your attention to one of the most crucial and meditative aspects of chinampa farming, water management. The system of channels, dikes, and controlled flows that makes floating agriculture possible requires daily attention and represents some of the most sophisticated hydraulic engineering in the pre-Columbian Americas. Your first task involves checking the water levels in the narrow canals that separate your chinampa from your neighbor's plots. These channels serve multiple functions. They provide easy access for canoes, create drainage for excess water, and maintain the precise moisture levels that keep your floating garden at optimal productivity. The water depth must be carefully maintained, deep enough for navigation but shallow enough to ensure proper soil aeration. Using a long pole marked with notches that represent different water levels, you measure the depth at several points along your plot's perimeter. The readings tell you immediately whether the recent rains have raised the lake level too much or whether evaporation has lowered it below optimal levels. This daily monitoring is essential for maintaining the delicate balance that makes chinampa agriculture so productive. Where the water level is too high, you use a specialized paddle to create gentle currents that encourage flow toward the main channels. The technique requires patience and skill, creating just enough water movement to adjust levels without disturbing the settled mud at the bottom. Your movements are slow and deliberate, more like conducting music than performing physical labor. Your breathing naturally slows to match the peaceful rhythm of this work. The gentle splash of your paddle, the quiet gurgle of moving water, and the soft lapping of small waves against your chinampa's edges create a symphony of liquid sounds that seem designed to induce a meditative state. Working with water in this way connects you to one of the fundamental forces of life. In areas where the water level is too low, you use a different technique, carefully opening small gaps in the low earth barriers that separate your channels from the main lake. Water flows through these temporary openings with satisfying efficiency, raising the level gradually until perfect balance is achieved. Then you close the gaps, using mud and aquatic plants to create watertight seals. This water management work requires an intimate understanding of hydraulic principles that would impress modern engineers. You must consider not only your own chinampa's needs but also how your actions affect your neighbor's water levels. The entire system works through cooperation and mutual consideration, with each chinampero understanding that individual success depends on the health of the whole network. Between water level adjustments, you tend to the aquatic plants that grow along your chinampa's edges. These plants serve multiple functions. Their roots help bind the earth that forms your garden's foundation, their growth provides raw material for composting, and their presence creates habitat for the fish and birds that add to the ecosystem's richness. Some of these edge plants require periodic harvesting to prevent them from growing too thick and interfering with water flow. You cut them carefully with an obsidian blade, its sharp edge slicing cleanly through stems and leaves. The harvested material goes into bundles that will soak overnight before being added to tomorrow's compost pile. Working among these aquatic plants brings you into close contact with the incredible biodiversity that thrives in the chinampa system. Water striders dance Across the surface tension, their legs creating tiny dimples in the water's mirror-like surface. Small fish dart between the plant stems, their silver sides flashing as they hunt for insects and plant matter. Frogs call from hidden perches, their voices adding to the peaceful chorus of life. This biodiversity isn't just beautiful, it's functional. The insects provide pollination services for your crops. The fish help control pest populations while their waste fertilizes the water. The birds eat harmful insects while their droppings add nutrients to the system. Everything is connected in a web of mutual benefit that makes artificial pesticides or fertilizers unnecessary. As you work with the water systems, you become increasingly aware of the incredible ingenuity of your ancestors who developed this agricultural method. They understood that fighting against natural forces was less effective than working with them, that cooperation with natural systems could produce abundance impossible through confrontation. The engineering that supports your floating garden is invisible but sophisticated. The chinampas are built on foundations of interwoven branches and plant matter that create flexible but stable platforms. The entire system can rise and fall with changing water levels without losing structural integrity. Drainage and irrigation happen simultaneously through the same network of channels. This integration of human intelligence with natural processes creates a form of agriculture that feels more like partnership than domination. You're not imposing your will on a resistant environment but participating in natural cycles, adding your knowledge and labor to systems that want to be productive and abundant. The afternoon harvest. As the sun passes its zenith and begins its afternoon journey toward the western mountains, you turn your attention to harvesting the crops that are ready for market. The timing of harvest in Chinampa agriculture is crucial. Vegetables must be picked at peak quality when they'll command the best prices in Tenochtitlan's busy markets. Your first stop is the section where you planted fast-growing greens 6 weeks ago. The plants have responded to the rich soil and abundant moisture by producing leaves of exceptional size and tenderness. Amaranth greens, their leaves deep green with purple veins, are ready for their first cutting. These nutritious plants will regrow from their roots, providing multiple harvests from a single planting. The harvesting process itself is meditative, requiring attention and care to select exactly the right leaves while leaving others to continue growing. Your obsidian blade moves with practiced precision, cutting each leaf cleanly at the base of its stem. The sharp volcanic glass creates cuts so clean they heal immediately, reducing the risk of disease while encouraging rapid regrowth. As you harvest, you arrange the greens carefully in woven baskets lined with broad leaves to maintain freshness during transport to market. The baskets themselves are works of art, woven from lake reeds by your wife during the winter months when Chinampa work is less intensive. Their tight weave keeps the vegetables crisp while allowing air circulation that prevents spoilage. Your breathing naturally synchronizes with the rhythm of harvesting. Bend, select, cut, place in basket, move to the next plant. The repetitive motions create a trance-like state where time seems to slow down, where each leaf receives individual attention and appreciation. There's something deeply satisfying about gathering food you've grown yourself, about participating directly in the cycle that sustains life. Moving to your tomato plants, you find them heavy with ripe fruit in every stage of development. The variety you specialize in produces tomatoes about the size of cherry tomatoes but with intense flavor that makes them prized in Tenochtitlan's finest households. Each fruit must be judged individually for ripeness, picked only when it reaches the perfect balance of flavor and keeping quality. The tomatoes come off their stems with a satisfying pop, releasing the distinctive green scent of tomato plants that will forever be associated in your mind with successful harvests and productive work. Each fruit represents the culmination of weeks of careful tending, proper watering, protection from pests, support for heavy branches, and the daily attention that transforms small seedlings into productive plants. Your technique for harvesting tomatoes has been refined through years of practice. You work systematically along each row, examining every cluster, selecting only those fruits that meet your exacting standards. Tomatoes that aren't quite ready remain on the vine for tomorrow's harvest, while overripe fruits go into a separate basket for immediate consumption or processing into paste. The chili harvest requires even more discrimination, as these plants produce fruits with varying levels of heat and flavor depending on growing conditions and timing. You've learned to judge chili quality by subtle visual cues, the glossiness of the skin, the firmness of the flesh, the depth of color that indicates optimal capsaicin development. Some chilies are destined for immediate consumption, their mild heat perfect for daily cooking. Others will be dried and ground into powders that preserve their flavor and heat for months. The hottest varieties are treated with special respect, their intense heat making them valuable for medicine as well as culinary use. As you harvest, you're constantly aware of the water surrounding your chinampa and its role in producing these exceptional crops. The consistent moisture and temperature regulation provided by the lake system create growing conditions that would be impossible to achieve on dry land. Your vegetables are larger, more tender, and more flavorful than anything grown in conventional fields. The afternoon light creates perfect conditions for evaluating crop quality, the sun's angle revealing subtle variations in color and texture that help you select only the finest specimens for market. This attention to quality is part of what makes Chinamparo produce command premium prices in Tenochtitlan. Customers know that vegetables grown in the floating gardens will be superior to anything else available. Between major crops, you harvest smaller quantities of specialty items that add diversity to your market offerings. Quilites, various wild greens that you encourage in unused corners of your chinampa, provide nutritious leaves with unique flavors. Edible flowers from your squash plants add color and delicate flavor to elite meals. Even the tender shoots of some aquatic plants serve as seasonal delicacies. Each type of crop requires its own harvesting technique and timing. Beans are picked young for eating fresh or allowed to mature for drying and storage. Squash flowers are harvested early in the morning when they're fully open but before they begin to close. Corn ears are tested for ripeness by pressing individual kernels to judge their moisture content. This diversity of crops and harvesting schedules means that your chinampa produces marketable vegetables throughout the growing season. While farmers on dry land might have one major harvest per year, you enjoy continuous productivity that provides steady income and ensures food security for your family. Evening reflections on the water as the afternoon shadows begin to lengthen across Lake Xochimilco and the sun starts its descent toward the mountains that ring the Valley of Mexico. You complete your daily harvest and prepare for the peaceful evening ritual that concludes each day of chinampa farming. The work has been satisfying and productive, but more than that, it has been deeply fulfilling in ways that go beyond mere agriculture. Loading your canoe with the day's harvest requires careful arrangement to maintain balance and protect the delicate vegetables during transport. The baskets of greens go in the bottom for stability, with more fragile items like tomatoes and flowers arranged in padded containers that prevent bruising. Everything is organized not only for practical transport but for attractive presentation at tomorrow morning's market. The canoe rides lower in the water now, weighted with the abundance that your floating garden has produced. As you push off from your chinampa and begin the gentle paddle back to shore, you feel the deep satisfaction that comes from work done in harmony with natural rhythms. Your vegetables are perfect examples of what happens when human intelligence cooperates with natural systems rather than fighting against them. Your breathing naturally slows as you paddle, the rhythm of your strokes matching the peaceful pace of evening on the lake. The water around you is calm now, reflecting the sky like polished obsidian. Other chinamparos are also finishing their day's work, their own canoes creating gentle wakes that intersect and dissipate in patterns of quiet beauty. The floating gardens you pass look like something from a dream in the soft evening light. Each chinampa is a rectangle of intense green productivity floating on the blue water, separated by channels that create a network of waterways extending as far as the eye can see. This is agriculture transformed into art, farming elevated to a level of beauty and sustainability that few other civilizations have ever achieved. As you paddle, you reflect on what makes this work so uniquely satisfying. Unlike farmers who must battle against drought, flood, poor soil, and unpredictable weather, you work in partnership with water and earth to create conditions that plants naturally want to thrive in. Your labor feels more like gardening than farming, more like tending a paradise than struggling against hostile forces. The chinampas represent one of humanity's most successful attempts to create sustainable abundance. These floating gardens have fed the growing population of Tenochtitlan for generations without depleting the soil, polluting the water, or destroying the natural ecosystems they're built within. Instead, they enhance the lake's productivity, creating habitat for fish and birds while producing more food per unit area than any other agricultural system in the Americas. This sustainability isn't accidental but results from deep understanding of ecological principles that modern agriculture is only beginning to rediscover. Your ancestors understood that true productivity comes from working with natural cycles rather than against them, from building soil rather than mining it, from creating diversity rather than imposing monoculture. The evening air carries the sense of your floating paradise, the green smell of growing plants, the fresh scent of clean water, the earthy richness of fertile soil. These aromas will always remind you of days spent in productive work that feeds both body and soul. There's something deeply satisfying about working with your hands to grow food, about participating directly in the cycles that sustain all life. Other sounds of evening begin to emerge as you paddle homeward. Water birds call from hidden nests in the reeds, their voices adding music to the peaceful atmosphere. Fish jump occasionally, their splashes creating expanding circles on the water's surface. In the distance, you can hear the voices of other chinampas greeting each other as they converge on the main channels that lead back to shore. The community aspect of chinampa farming is part of what makes it so fulfilling. While each family tends its own plot, the entire system depends on cooperation and mutual support. Water management requires coordination between neighbors. Knowledge about new techniques or crop varieties is freely shared. During harvest season, families help each other bring their crops to market efficiently. As your canoe approaches the reed beds that fringe the shore, you feel gratitude for the life you've inherited. This work connects you to the fundamental processes of life while providing economic security and deep personal satisfaction. You're not just growing food, you're participating in one of humanity's most beautiful and sustainable ways of living in harmony with the natural world. The gentle bump of your canoe's bow against the muddy shore marks the end of another perfect day in the floating gardens. Tomorrow will bring similar work, tending plants, managing water, harvesting crops, but each day is unique in its small discoveries and quiet satisfactions. This is work that feeds the soul as well as the body, that connects human intelligence to natural wisdom in ways that create abundance for all. The market journey at dawn. Long before the sun rises over the eastern mountains, you're already preparing for one of the most exciting aspects of chinampa farming, the journey to Tenochtitlan's great market with your harvest. This pre-dawn activity transforms your peaceful agricultural work into participation in one of the most vibrant commercial systems in the ancient Americas. The preparation begins while stars still shine overhead, as you carefully arrange yesterday's harvest in your largest canoe for the journey to market. Each vegetable must be positioned to prevent damage during transport while creating an attractive display that will catch buyers' attention. Your reputation as a chinamparo depends not only on growing exceptional produce but on presenting it beautifully to discerning customers. Baskets of leafy greens go in the canoe's bottom, their weight providing stability for the journey. More delicate items like tomatoes and flowers are arranged in smaller containers with padding of soft lake grass to prevent bruising. Everything is organized systematically so you can quickly access any item customers might request without disrupting the overall arrangement. Your wife joins you for market days, her skills in negotiation and customer relations complementing your agricultural expertise. Together, you've built relationships with regular customers throughout Tenochtitlan, cooks for noble households who prize the exceptional quality of chinampa produce, merchants who buy in bulk for redistribution, and ordinary families who save their money to purchase the best vegetables available. The pre-dawn paddle to market is one of the most magical experiences in your life. As a chinamparo, the lake is perfectly calm in the still air before sunrise, creating a mirror-like surface that reflects the stars and the faint glow beginning to appear on the eastern horizon. Your paddle moves through the water almost silently, creating gentle ripples that spread outward in perfect circles. Other chinamparos are making the same journey, their canoes appearing as shadowy forms gliding across the dark water. Occasionally, someone calls a quiet greeting, but mostly the journey proceeds in peaceful silence. There's something deeply satisfying about this communal pilgrimage to market, this shared participation in the economic system that makes your agricultural work economically viable. Your breathing naturally synchronizes with your paddle strokes as you navigate the network of channels that lead from Lake Xochimilco to the main waterways, connecting with Tenochtitlan. The rhythm is meditative, forward stroke, recovery. Forward stroke, recovery, creating a hypnotic pattern that allows your mind to anticipate the day's commercial activities while your body performs the familiar motions of efficient paddling. As you paddle, you become increasingly aware of being part of something much larger than individual agricultural work. The produce in your canoe represents your contribution to feeding one of the world's largest cities. The vegetables grown in your small floating garden will nourish families throughout Tenochtitlan, providing the nutrition that sustains artists, warriors, priests, and craftspeople who create Aztec civilization's remarkable achievements. The sun begins to rise as you enter the main canal system that leads directly to Tenochtitlan's market district. The light reveals the full magnificence of the chinampa system, hundreds of rectangular floating gardens stretching as far as the eye can see, each one producing abundant crops that feed the growing urban population. From water level, the view is spectacular, with green rectangles of productivity separated by blue channels that create a geometric pattern of incredible beauty. Other types of boats begin to appear as you approach the city, larger cargo canoes carrying bulk goods from distant regions, passenger vessels transporting people who live on the lake's shores but work in the city, fishing boats returning with their night's catch. The water traffic increases gradually as the commercial day begins, creating a complex dance of vessels moving purposefully through the interconnected waterways. The first glimpse of Tenochtitlan from your canoe never fails to inspire awe. The city rises from Lake Texcoco like something from a dream, its white temples and palaces gleaming in the early morning light. Causeway bridges connect the island city to the mainland, their engineering marvels that allow both water traffic to pass underneath and foot traffic to cross safely above. As you paddle closer to the city, the scale of the market system becomes apparent. Hundreds of canoes are converging on the commercial district, each loaded with products that will make Tenochtitlan's market one of the largest and most diverse in the world. Your small contribution of vegetables joins a river of goods flowing into the city: cacao from the tropical lowlands, obsidian from volcanic regions, cotton textiles from specialized weaving centers, precious stones and metals from throughout the empire. The canal that leads directly to the market is engineered with sophisticated docking facilities that allow efficient unloading of goods. Stone platforms provide stable surfaces for arranging merchandise, while shallow draft areas accommodate canoes of different sizes. The entire system is designed to facilitate the smooth flow of goods from producers to consumers with minimum effort and maximum efficiency. Your breathing deepens with anticipation as you approach your assigned section of the market wharf. The day's commercial activity is about to begin, transforming your peaceful agricultural work into participation in the vibrant economic system that makes Aztec civilization possible. Your floating garden produce will soon nourish people throughout the greatest city in the Americas. In the great market of Tenochtitlan. The moment you tie your canoe to the stone dock at Tenochtitlan's great market, you enter one of the most extraordinary commercial environments ever created by human civilization. The Tlatelolco market, which serves the twin cities of Tenochtitlan and Tlatelolco, is a vast plaza that can accommodate up to 60,000 people on busy days, making it larger than most European cities of the time. Unloading your harvest requires careful coordination with your wife, who has already begun arranging the cloth that will serve as your display area. Every movement must be efficient and organized, as the best market spots fill quickly, and presentation is crucial to attracting customers in this competitive environment. Your vegetables must be arranged not just functionally but artistically, creating displays that demonstrate the exceptional quality of chinampa produce. The leafy greens go into woven baskets that elevate them above the ground while allowing air circulation. Their deep green color and perfect condition immediately distinguish them from produce grown on dry land. Tomatoes are arranged in shallow bowls that showcase their uniform size and brilliant color. Chilies are sorted by variety and heat level, each type displayed to highlight its particular characteristics. Your market stall becomes a small showcase for the abundance and quality that chinampa agriculture can achieve. Regular customers begin arriving even before you've finished arranging everything, drawn by their knowledge that your floating garden produce is worth seeking out. These loyal buyers include cooks for noble households, who prize the exceptional flavor and tenderness of vegetables grown in the lake system. The sensory experience of Tenochtitlan's market is overwhelming in the best possible way. The visual spectacle includes goods from throughout the known world, brilliant textiles dyed in colors that seem to glow, precious stones that capture and reflect light like trapped rainbows, metalwork of incredible sophistication and beauty, pottery that represents the pinnacle of ceramic art. But it's the human interaction that makes market day most rewarding for chinamperos like yourself. Each sale represents recognition of your agricultural skills, validation that your work produces something truly valuable. Customers don't just buy your vegetables, they seek you out specifically because they know that chinampa produce is superior to anything else available. A cook from a noble household examines your tomatoes with expert attention, selecting only those that meet her exacting standards for an important feast. Her appreciation for your work is evident in her careful selection and willingness to pay premium prices for exceptional quality. These professional buyers understand the difference between ordinary produce and the superior vegetables that only floating garden agriculture can produce. Your breathing naturally slows as you settle into the rhythm of market interaction. Greeting customers, displaying merchandise, negotiating prices, making change. With cacao beans that serve as currency for small transactions. The pace is social, rather than frantic, allowing time for conversation and relationship building that makes commerce a form of community interaction. Between major sales, you have opportunities to observe the incredible diversity of goods and people that make Tenochtitlan's market a wonder of the ancient world. Merchants from the tropical lowlands display exotic fruits and spices that don't grow in the highland environment. Craftspeople from distant regions offer specialized products that demonstrate the technological sophistication of Mesoamerican civilization. The market's organization reflects Aztec society's appreciation for order and efficiency. Similar goods are grouped together in designated sections, making it easy for customers to compare quality and prices. Officials patrol regularly to ensure fair dealing and prevent fraud. The entire system operates according to well-established rules that create an environment where both buyers and sellers can conduct business with confidence. Your wife handles much of the direct customer interaction, her skills in negotiation and social charm complementing your agricultural expertise. Together, you've developed a reputation for exceptional produce and honest dealing that brings customers back repeatedly. This reputation is one of your most valuable assets, worth more than any individual sale. As the morning progresses, your carefully arranged displays gradually diminish as customers purchase your harvest. Each sale represents successful completion of the agricultural cycle that began with planting seeds in your floating garden weeks or months ago. The transformation of tiny seeds into beautiful, nutritious food that commands good prices in the market is deeply satisfying. The social aspect of market day is as important as the commercial activity. You reconnect with other chinamperos, sharing information about growing conditions, new varieties, and market trends. These informal exchanges of knowledge help the entire floating garden community improve their techniques and respond to changing customer preferences. Regular customers become almost like extended family members, asking about your family's health and sharing news from their own lives. These relationships extend beyond simple commerce to create social bonds that strengthen the entire community. The market serves not just as a place of business but as a social institution that connects urban consumers with rural producers. By midday, you've sold most of your harvest at prices that reflect the premium quality of chinampa produce. The success of your market day validates months of careful work in your floating garden and provides the economic foundation that makes your sustainable agricultural lifestyle possible. Your empty baskets represent not just completed sales but successful participation in one of history's most sophisticated market economies. The afternoon return. With your harvest sold and your canoe significantly lighter, the afternoon paddle back to Lake Xochimilco offers time for reflection on the successful completion of another agricultural and commercial cycle. The return journey feels different from the pre-dawn trip to market, less urgent but equally purposeful, as you carry not vegetables but the satisfaction of work well done and commerce successfully concluded. Your wife counts the day's earnings as you paddle, sorting the various forms of payment into organized groups. Cacao beans for small transactions, cotton, textiles for medium-sized purchases, and small pieces of precious metal for your most expensive items. The total represents not just money but validation that your agricultural work produces something genuinely valuable to your community. The afternoon light transforms the waterways into a completely different landscape from the one you traveled in pre-dawn darkness. The sun illuminates the floating gardens with perfect clarity, revealing the incredible extent and productivity of the chinampa system. From your water level perspective, you can see that every available space has been converted into productive agriculture, creating a patchwork of green rectangles that extends to the horizon. Other chinamperos are also returning from market, their own canoes riding higher in the water after successful sales. Quiet conversations drift across the water as neighbors share news from the market and compare their commercial success. These informal debriefings help everyone understand changing customer preferences and market conditions. Your breathing naturally synchronizes with the relaxed paddle rhythm of the return journey. The urgency of getting to market on time has been replaced by the peaceful pace of homeward travel. Each paddle stroke brings you closer to the tranquil environment of your floating garden, where afternoon work awaits but at a gentler pace than the morning's market preparation. The water traffic is lighter now, mostly chinamperos returning home and fishing, boats beginning their afternoon expeditions. The canal system reveals its sophisticated engineering more clearly in daylight, carefully maintained banks that prevent erosion, strategic placement of channels that optimize water flow, and docking facilities that accommodate varying water levels throughout the seasons. As you paddle through the main channels, you pass floating gardens in various stages of development and cultivation. Some show the neat rows of recently planted crops, others display the lush growth of plants approaching harvest, and a few reveal the careful soil preparation that precedes new planting. This diversity ensures continuous productivity throughout the growing season. The engineering that makes chinampa agriculture possible becomes more apparent as you observe the system from water level. Each floating garden is precisely positioned to optimize drainage, sun exposure, and access to transportation channels. The spacing between plots allows air circulation that prevents plant diseases while providing navigation routes for canoes of different sizes. Approaching your own chinampa after successful market day brings a special satisfaction. This small rectangle of floating productivity has provided not only your family's food security but also the economic foundation for your entire lifestyle. The vegetables that commanded premium prices in Tenochtitlan's market grew from soil you prepared with your own hands, watered with lake water you managed carefully, and tended with attention that transformed agriculture into art. Your canoe glides smoothly alongside your floating garden's edge, and you secure it to the wooden stakes with movements that have become automatic through daily repetition. Stepping from canoe to chinampa feels like coming home to a place that exists in perfect harmony between human intelligence and natural productivity. The afternoon work that awaits is gentler than morning's intensive activities. Watering plants that need additional moisture, checking for pest problems that require attention, and planning tomorrow's activities based on what you observed. In today's market, this work feels more like tending a beloved garden than performing agricultural labor. Your breathing deepens with contentment as you survey your floating paradise in the soft afternoon light. Every plant represents successful application of traditional knowledge to create sustainable abundance. The vegetables growing here will provide for your family's needs while producing surplus for market sales that maintain your economic independence. The transition from commercial interaction back to agricultural work is seamless and natural. Your hands, which spent the morning handling money and negotiating prices, now return to their more fundamental task of working with soil and plants. This balance between economic activity and agricultural work creates a lifestyle that feeds both material needs and spiritual satisfaction. As you begin the afternoon's garden work, you feel gratitude for inheriting this way of life from your ancestors. The floating gardens represent generations of accumulated wisdom about sustainable agriculture, passed down through families who understood that true wealth comes from working in harmony with natural systems rather than against them. Evening maintenance and planning. As the sun begins its descent toward the western mountains that ring the valley of Mexico, you turn your attention to the maintenance activities that keep your chinampa in perfect condition for continued productivity. This evening work is both practical and meditative, providing quiet time to assess your floating garden's needs while planning for future planting and harvesting cycles. Your first task involves checking the irrigation channels that border your plot, ensuring that water levels remain optimal for your crop's root systems. The channels must be deep enough to provide adequate drainage during heavy rains, but shallow enough to allow capillary action to draw moisture up into your garden soil. This balance requires daily attention and frequent small adjustments. Using a long pole marked with notches that indicate different water depths, you measure levels at several points around your chinampa's perimeter. Today's measurements show that yesterday's brief rainfall raised the water slightly above optimal levels, requiring minor adjustments to encourage gentle flow toward the main channels. The technique for adjusting water levels has been refined through generations of chinampa experience. You use a wooden paddle to create barely perceptible currents that gradually move water from high areas to lower ones. The movements are so gentle they barely disturb the surface, but over time they achieve the precise water management that keeps your floating garden productive. Your breathing naturally slows as you perform this careful work, the repetitive motions creating a meditative state that allows deep attention to subtle changes in water behavior. Each small adjustment requires patience and observation, waiting to see the results before making additional modifications. This work teaches the value of gentle persistence over forceful action. Between water level adjustments, you check on plants that received special attention during your morning absence. Young seedlings that were transplanted recently need monitoring for signs of transplant shock or pest damage. Established plants approaching harvest require evaluation to determine optimal picking times for maximum quality and market value. The tomato plants receive particular attention, as these valuable crops are sensitive to both over and underwatering. You examine individual plants for signs of stress, adjusting small earth dams around their bases to ensure optimal moisture retention. The leaves should show healthy green color without the yellowing that indicates nitrogen deficiency or the wilting that suggests water stress. Your chili plants are inspected for the tiny insects that can damage developing fruits. The examination is thorough but gentle, using your knowledge of beneficial versus harmful insects to determine whether intervention is needed. Most problems can be prevented through the biological diversity that chinampa agriculture naturally encourages. As you work, you plan tomorrow's activities based on what you observed during today's market visit. Customer requests for specific varieties influence your planting decisions, while information about changing prices helps you determine which crops deserve additional attention and resources. The planning process involves both short-term tactical decisions and longer-term strategic thinking. Which sections of your chinampa should be prepared for new plantings? Which varieties performed best in recent harvests and deserve expanded cultivation? How can you adjust your growing practices to take advantage of market opportunities while maintaining soil health? This strategic thinking is one of the most intellectually satisfying aspects of chinampa farming. Unlike subsistence agriculture focused solely on feeding your family, commercial floating garden farming requires constant adaptation to market conditions while maintaining the ecological principles that ensure long-term sustainability. The aquatic plants that grow along your chinampa's edges receive evening attention as you harvest materials for tomorrow's composting activities. These plants grow continuously in the nutrient-rich water, providing unlimited raw material for maintaining your garden's incredible soil fertility. Selecting the right plants at the optimal growth stage ensures maximum nutritional value in your compost. Working among these edge plants brings you into close contact with the incredible biodiversity that chinampa agriculture supports. Water striders dance across the surface tension, their movements creating tiny ripples that catch the evening light. Small fish dart between plant stems, their presence indicating healthy water quality and ecosystem balance. As evening deepens, you complete your maintenance activities and prepare for the peaceful transition to night. Your chinampa is ready for tomorrow's work, its water levels optimal, its plants healthy and well tended, its soil prepared for continued productivity. The day's cycle of market sales and garden maintenance is complete, ready to begin again with tomorrow's dawn. Standing on your floating garden in the gathering dusk, surrounded by the gentle sounds of water and growing plants, you feel the deep satisfaction that comes from work done in harmony with natural rhythms. This is agriculture as it should be: productive, sustainable, and deeply fulfilling for those who practice it. Night sounds and water dreams. As darkness settles over Lake Xochimilco and the daytime sounds of human activity fade into memory, your floating garden world transforms into something entirely different, a realm of night sounds, gentle water movements, and the mysterious processes that continue even while farmers sleep. The transition from day to night in the chinampas is gradual and peaceful, like sliding into a warm bath of tranquil sensations. Your return to shore as stars appear overhead completes another cycle in the rhythm that has governed Chinamparo life for generations. The paddle home through darkening channels is perhaps the most meditative time of the entire day, when the business of growing and selling gives way to quiet contemplation of the day's accomplishments and tomorrow's possibilities. The evening air carries different scents than those of midday, cooler, more concentrated with the essence of water and growing plants. Night blooming flowers add their perfume to the mix, creating an olfactory symphony that changes subtly with each gentle breeze. Your breathing naturally deepens to take in these evening fragrances, your body automatically relaxing as the day's work tension dissipates. Other chinamparos are also completing their day's work, their distant voices carrying across the water as they secure canoes and make final checks on their floating gardens. These quiet conversations create a background murmur that speaks of community and shared purpose, of people who understand that their individual success depends on the health of the entire system. Arriving at your small shoreside house, you complete the evening rituals that mark the transition from work to rest. Your tools are cleaned and stored properly, ready for tomorrow's use. Clothing worn during the day's work is changed for the simple cotton garment suitable for evening relaxation. The transition from chinamparo to family member is marked by these small ceremonies of conclusion. Your wife prepares the evening meal while you arrange tomorrow's seeds and tools, the domestic routine that has structured your family life for years. The food includes vegetables from your own chinampa, tomatoes still warm with the day's sunshine, leafy greens that were growing in your garden this morning, chilies that add warmth and flavor to the simple but nutritious dishes that sustain chinamparo families. Eating food you grew yourself provides satisfaction that goes beyond mere nutrition. Each bite connects you directly to the soil, water, and sunshine that combine with your labor to create sustenance. This direct connection between work and nourishment is one of the great privileges of agricultural life, especially agriculture practiced with the harmony and sustainability of the chinampa system. After the evening meal, you sit outside your house in the gathering darkness, listening to the night sounds of the lake system. Frogs call from hidden locations in the reed beds, their voices creating a chorus that rises and falls in rhythmic waves. Water birds rustle in their roosts, occasionally calling softly to maintain contact with their mates and offspring. The gentle lapping of water against the shore provides a constant background rhythm, like the heartbeat of the lake system itself. This sound, which you've heard every night of your life, creates a sense of security and continuity that connects you to all the generations of chinamparos who have lived and worked in this watery paradise. Your breathing synchronizes with these natural rhythms as you relax completely. For the first time since dawn, the day's accumulation of minor tensions, the urgency of market preparation, the concentration required for careful harvesting, the social energy of commercial interaction, all dissolve in the peaceful embrace of evening by the lake. Stars emerge one by one overhead, their light reflecting on the water's surface to create a double sky of twinkling points. The same constellations that guided your ancestors in their agricultural timing now provide a sense of cosmic order and continuity. You are part of something much larger than individual human life, connected to the cycles of water and earth and sky that have sustained all life since the beginning of time. Thoughts of tomorrow's work drift through your mind without urgency or anxiety. There will be plants to tend, water levels to monitor, perhaps another harvest ready for market. But these future tasks feel natural and welcome rather than burdensome, part of the rhythm of life that gives meaning and purpose to each day. The temperature drops gradually as night deepens, the thermal mass of the lake moderating the transition from day's warmth to night's coolness. This natural air Conditioning is another gift of the chinampa system, creating growing conditions that are more stable and favorable than those available to farmers working on dry land. Eventually, the day's accumulated fatigue makes rest necessary, and you prepare for sleep with the satisfaction of someone whose work contributes to both personal well-being and community prosperity. Your floating garden will continue its quiet growth processes through the night, preparing tomorrow's gifts while you restore your energy for another day of tending this aquatic paradise. Lying on your reed mat in the darkness, listening to the gentle sounds of water and night life, you feel gratitude for the life you've inherited. The work of a chinampa connects you to fundamental life processes while providing economic security and deep personal satisfaction. You participate in one of humanity's most beautiful and sustainable ways of living in harmony with natural systems. Your breathing deepens naturally as sleep approaches, each inhalation bringing the clean air of the lake region, each exhalation releasing the day's efforts and concerns. The transition to sleep is gradual and peaceful, like sinking slowly into warm water that supports and embraces your tired body. Dreams, when they come, are filled with images of growing plants, flowing water, and the endless cycle of seed and harvest that defines agricultural life. Sometimes, you dream of your chinampa as it will look next month, heavy with mature crops, ready for market. Other times you dream of new techniques or varieties that might improve your already successful operation. But tonight, as consciousness fades and sleep takes hold, your dreams are simply peaceful visions of work done in harmony with natural systems, of abundance created through cooperation rather than conflict, of life lived in balance with the water and earth and sky that provide everything necessary for human flourishing. Sleep comes easily and deeply, your body and mind relaxing completely in the knowledge that tomorrow will bring more opportunities to participate in this most Zen-like of all human occupations, tending floating gardens that feed both body and soul with equal generosity. The night continues its ancient rhythm around your sleeping form, while across the lake your chinampa continues its quiet work of transforming sunlight and water and earth into the abundance that will greet you with tomorrow's dawn. The floating gardens sleep too, but their dreams are of growth and harvest, of roots extending deeper and leaves reaching higher, of the endless miracle of life, creating more life through the patient alchemy of agriculture practiced with wisdom and love. Rest now, chinampa, knowing that your work contributes to one of humanity's most beautiful achievements, the creation of sustainable abundance through cooperation with natural systems rather than domination over them. The floating gardens will continue their quiet growth while you restore your energy for another day in paradise. Breathe deeply, relax completely, and let yourself sink into the healing embrace of sleep, carried by dreams of flowing water, growing plants, and the profound satisfaction that comes from work that feeds both the world and the soul.